We spend so much time tracking things like, IQ scores, academic diplomas, career milestones.
Right. The usual metrics.
Exactly. But have you ever stopped to consider the hidden engine, the thing driving so much of our success and happiness?
Our emotions.
Yeah, our emotions, and how well we understand and manage them, and also how we connect with what others are feeling. So this deep dive into Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. For too long, the spotlight has been solely on raw intellect, right? Like IQ is the main predictor of a good life.
Right.
But what the source material really powerfully demonstrates is that emotional intelligence, our ability to recognize, understand, manage, use our own emotions, and also to perceive and kind of influence the emotions of people around us, it actually wields an even greater influence than maybe we realized.
Okay, so our mission here seems pretty clear then. We need to unpack exactly what emotional intelligence is. Then we'll look at why it seems so significant, possibly, like you said, even outweighing the importance we usually place on IQ.
Yeah.
And finally, the really crucial question, I think, is this stuff something we're just born with? Or can we actually cultivate it, strengthen it?
Precisely. And the material we're diving into, it offers a really compelling look at all of this.
Okay.
It pulls from a huge range of real-world examples, everything from, sadly, tragic news events that show the destructive power of, unchecked emotions.
Yeah.
All the way to fascinating research into how the brain actually works and those critical stages of emotional development in kids. It really built a comprehensive picture of how emotional intelligence just permeates everything.
Okay, so let's kick things off by putting it side by side with that old yardstick IQ.
Good place to start.
The source starts with this really striking contrast. You've got Aristotle's wisdom on anger, being angry at the right time in the right way.
Right measure, right reason.
Yeah, all that. And then boom, right next to it, these jarring news reports of just extreme violence erupting over seemingly tiny things, minor slights.
Yeah.
It just throws that difference into sharp relief, doesn't it? The difference between knowing something intellectually and actually being able to handle your feelings intelligently.
And what's fascinating is that this tension, the one Aristotle pointed out centuries ago, it's still playing out in really devastating ways sometimes. You can have exceptional intellectual gifts, a super high IQ, but still be completely, inept at navigating your own emotional world healthily.
Right.
The source material brings this out really well with that Harvard study reference. They tracked 95 alumni into middle age.
Okay.
And despite their amazing academic records, top test scores, stuff you'd think would predict incredible success,
Totally.
the study found no strong link between those scores and their actual life outcomes. Career success, money, even just overall happiness or satisfaction.
Wow.
So the key insight there is, brain power doesn't automatically mean a thriving life.
Exactly. They had the smarts, hence the tests, but that wasn't the guarantee, and that's where emotional intelligence seems to step in. The source suggests that the people who kind of surprisingly excel, sometimes even with more average IQs, they often have this robust set of emotional intelligence skills.
Yeah.
We're talking things like self-control, managing impulses, real enthusiasm, or the source calls it zeal.
Yeah.
The ability to stick with things, persistence, that inner push, self-motivation, and crucially, empathy understanding, sharing others' feelings.
That's it.
The core idea seems to be these emotional skills often make the difference for those who really flourish.
Precisely. These are the qualities that let people navigate, the messiness of being human, forge strong relationships, get past obstacles, and just find a greater sense of fulfillment. It really underscores that life isn't just about intellect. It's profoundly shaped by how we handle our own inner world, our emotional landscape, and connect with others' emotions too.
Okay, so we're starting to get a clearer picture how these two types of intelligence differ in their impact. Now, the source dives into this really interesting concept of two minds, the rational and the emotional.
Ah, yes. Foundational stuff.
Can you explain how those two operate, and maybe more importantly, what happens when they're not quite seeing eye to eye?
Right. This is really key for grasping emotional intelligence. Think of the rational mind as your conscious, logical part. It analyzes, reasons, thinks deliberately.
Okay.
The emotional mind, though, it's more impulsive.
Yeah.
Powerful, often operates kind of under the radar of our conscious awareness. It's driven by feelings, and sometimes it just bypasses logic completely.
Right.
Ideally, they work together, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts and feelings in harmony, guiding us. But when intense emotions surge, that balance gets thrown off. The emotional mind can just take over, leading to what the source calls neural hijackings.
Neural hijackings. That sounds intense. How does that actually play out in the brain?
Well, the source uses that example of Robles, the guy who reacted violently when he felt slighted.
Yeah.
In those moments of intense emotion, especially if we feel threatened or hit a strong trigger, this little part of the brain called the amygdala, it's like the emotion hub.
The amygdala, okay.
It can basically trigger an immediate, powerful response before our neocortex, the thinking part of the brain, has even had time to fully process what's going on.
Wow. So it's like an emergency alarm.
Exactly, like an alarm system going off too soon, overriding the more, measured, rational response.
So in Robles' case, that feeling of disrespect basically hit the alarm button in his amygdala, leading to that impulsive, terrible act of violence, all before his thinking brain could catch up and maybe suggest a different path.
Precisely. And the source clarifies this even more by talking about the different jobs of the hippocampus and the amygdala in memory.
Okay, how so?
The hippocampus mainly handles the facts, remembering what happened, who was there, the details.
Got it.
The amygdala, though, that's where the emotional flavor gets stored, the emotional significance of experiences. Like the source puts it, your hippocampus remembers it's your cousin's face.
Right.
But your amygdala adds the little tag, that feeling that maybe you don't really like her much.
Huh. Okay, that cousin example really makes it clear.
Right.
So we have these two minds. Emotional can sometimes overpower the rational one. Now, the source brings in Peter Salovey's 5 core domains of emotional intelligence. Let's dig into those. What are the basic building blocks here?
Yeah, Salovey's framework is super helpful for breaking it down. Domain number 1 is knowing one's emotions. Self-awareness.
Okay.
This is presented as the absolute bedrock. You have to be able to recognize a feeling as it's happening.
Can't manage what you don't know is there.
Exactly. It's the essential first step. Can't do anything else about it, really.
Right.
Second is managing emotions. Handling feelings appropriately for the situation builds right on top of self-awareness.
Right.
Third is motivating oneself, using emotions to drive you towards goals. Fourth, recognizing emotions in others. That's empathy. Also stems from knowing your own feelings first. And the fifth domain is handling relationships. Basically, the skill of managing emotions in other people.
Okay, self-awareness is the starting point. That really resonates. The source uses that great story, the samurai and the Zen master, to illustrate it. Can you walk us through that one?
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic illustration. So this enraged samurai confronts a Zen master. The master responds kind of dismissively.
Uh-oh.
And the samurai, just consumed by fury, draws his sword, ready to cut the master down.
Intense.
The master just calmly says, "That is hell." And the samurai, suddenly in that moment, he sees himself agitated, destructive. He pauses, lowers the sword, sheathes it, bows.
Wow.
Then the master says, "And that is heaven."
Ah.
It just vividly shows that critical difference, right, between being totally swept away by a feeling versus recognizing you're being swept away. That awareness creates the choice point.
That's a powerful image, that ability to step back, observe your own internal weather, basically.
Exactly.
The source also mentions John Mayer's work on different styles of how we pay attention to our emotions, the self-aware, engulfed, and accepting styles. What's the difference there?
Right. Mayer suggests people tend to relate to their emotions in these different ways. Self-aware people are tuned in. They notice their moods as they happen. This gives them more understanding, more control.
Like someone who realizes, okay, I'm getting frustrated and can do something about it.
Precisely. Then you have the engulfed style. These folks often feel overwhelmed by their emotions, like the mood just takes over completely. Hard to shake off.
Your whole day is ruined because you woke up grumpy.
Pretty much, yeah. And finally, the accepting style. These people are clear on what they're feeling, but they tend to just accept it rather than try to change it. They might say, "Yep, I'm sad," but not actively work to shift that feeling.
It definitely sounds like that self-aware style is the goal, the most adaptive one.
Generally, yes.
Now, the source brings up alexithymia, Gary, the emotionally flat surgeon. What does his situation tell us about why recognizing our own emotions is so vital?
Gary's situation, this alexithymia, it really highlights just how crucial self-awareness is. I mean, here's a guy, intellectually brilliant, successful surgeon.
Right.
But he was remarkably blind to emotional cues in himself, in others. Couldn't identify his own feelings, couldn't really talk about them, even in his marriage.
Joey just seemed Blank.
Bland, disconnected, yeah.
Okay.
It shows that knowing what we're feeling isn't just, nice to have. It's fundamental to being emotionally intelligent. It's like missing the basic vocabulary of your inner life. Big consequences for relationships, self-understanding.
You're emotionally illiterate about yourself. Okay. Then the source contrasts Gary with Elliot. This is the guy who had surgery affecting his prefrontal lobes.
Yes, Elliot.
And he lost the ability to feel the emotional weight of things. His thinking was fine, but his decisions became terrible. This leads to somatic markers. What are those? How do they link up with making rational choices?
Elliot's case was absolutely pivotal. Really changed how he understood emotion and reason. His IQ, his cognitive skills were intact after surgery. But because he couldn't feel emotions, his judgment in everyday life just collapsed.
So strange.
Antonio Damasio's work with him suggested that our emotions aren't just noise, they're essential guides for rational choice. He coined somatic markers for these basically gut feelings. These visceral signals, driven by the limbic system, linked to past experiences. They quickly tag options as good or bad, like an automatic warning system.
Steer you away from danger or towards opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Elliot lacked these emotional signals. Every option felt neutral. So even simple decisions became paralyzingly difficult. It powerfully suggests feelings aren't roadblocks to reason. They're actually integral to reason. You need them to make sound judgments.